Peace, it's your brother YK the Truth, and I got some information that I want to share with the people. I just found out that my third great grandfather served in the Civil War, and not only that, he fought with Harriet Tubman. For the last couple of months, I have been doing extensive research on my history and my ancestors so I can have an idea of where I come from, where my family comes from, our origins, because, us as African Americans, we don't know these things. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much things that our ancestors participated in, but we would never know because a lot of them, didn't know how to read and write because they weren't allowed to read and write. So their legacy was deleted. And I believe that that's the biggest crime of all, not being able to speak for yourself. Well, we asked for reparations for slavery, but we really need to consider reparations just off the fact that we can't trace our ancestors. Some of us, many of us, can't trace our ancestors because of, the brick wall. But I have traced my ancestry back to about, I would say, my fourth great grandparent. And I even did my wife's genealogy, and I even went back to Fort. She got like Irish in her family, so I even went back to like the 1400 with her. So as I was, digging in ancestry and checking the census, I found out that my third great grandfather was in the 2nd South Carolina Volunteer Infantry for colored soldiers. He was in the Civil War. I found his pension. I also found all the records and how much he was paid. And I want to share all of this with my YouTube family. There will be no more videos exposing other black men who look just like me. We need to teach things that's going to uplift our people. And I think that knowing where you come from is the most vital thing you need. Because if you don't know where you originate, you're not going to know where you're going. So that should be one of our priorities, is to know our ancestors. And I learned so much just, learning about the low country, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, and I also learned that most of my people on my mom's side, they are from Florida, Georgia, because I was born in Tallahassee, Florida, Leon County. So when you go to your ancestry, like, you're going to be shocked, okay? Because it's going to all make sense to where you were created, where you were born. Everything is going to fall in place because my third great grandfather was born in Florida. He lived in Florida, Leon County. So it makes perfect sense of how I was born in Leon County. So I just want to share this information with y'all. So let's check it out. So my third great grandfather was in the 2nd South Carolina Volunteer Infantry Regiment for colored people. All right? And I'm going to break down what the 2nd South Carolina Volunteer Infantry Regiment was, okay? It was an African American infantry that served in the Union Army during the American Civil War. It was among the scores of units raids starting in the middle of the war and to augment federal troop strength by tapping into the large southern population of former slaves. So, what you have to understand is that most of the slaves, and not only the slaves, but the freedmen, the white men, most of those guys did not have any experience about war. You know what I mean? They volunteered to fight for what they believed was right. They didn't have any experience. A lot of them guys were just being murdered, like instantly. And you can look at a lot of the Civil War, pictures. They got them colorized now, where you can actually see them colored. So let me continue, okay? Before I digress. The regiment, accompanied by Harriet Tubman. Yo, when I heard that, people, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, yo, my third great grandfather fought with Harriet Tubman. Like, I grew up learning about Harriet Tubman in school with the Underground Railroad. Little did I know. Now I'm 36 years old today. And I'm just learning this at 36 that my third great, and I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna prove it to you, that my third great grandfather fought along Harriet Tubman. Now, this is why I say it's important for you to trace your genealogy, because who knows what you might find. So let's keep going. Accompanied by Harriet Tubman, participated in the raid at Combahee Ferry, in which roughly 800 slaves were freed. Now, my third great grandfather was there. He was there, and he helped freed 800 slaves. And I get goosebumps knowing now that this is who I descended from. Somebody who helped freed us. It means a lot, it really does. Now, it gained notoriety among certain quarters for its actions during the controversial looting and burning of the pro-Confederate town of Darien, Georgia. This operation was part of the Union strategy to damage the Confederate states' ability to supply food and materials toward their war effort. The regiment and its role in burning Darien are featured in the 1989 Civil War film Glory. Now, I'm going to play a clip of that scene because I grew up watching Glory. And I remember that scene. And little did I know that my third great grandfather was actually there. And he burned down Darien, Georgia, which was a Confederate state that supplied food to their soldiers. Okay? This is deep. In January of 1863, Colonel James Montgomery of Kansas was authorized to raise a regiment of troops consisting entirely of free blacks and refugee former slaves. So a lot of these slaves some of them were runaway. I would say majority of them were runaway slaves, refugee. They was fighting for their freedom. Okay? So let's keep going. Which were to serve under white officers. While many men readily agreed to military service, dozens were compelled by the army to obey conscription notices. Okay? So, Montgomery organized the 2nd South Carolina Volunteer Infantry at Beaufort in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The new recruits were mustered into the federal service on May 22nd, 1863. The 2nd was attached initially to the districts of Hilton Head and Beaufort, South Carolina. All right? So you guys can read the rest, but I just want to matter of fact, I'm not even going to do that. I want to give you the whole thing in its entirety. No shortcuts. All right? So, throughout 1863 and part of 1864, Montgomery practiced his Jayhawker brand of irregular warfare in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Remember those 3 places. Remember South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Low Country, right? I was born in Florida, moved to New York at the age of 6. Something in my spirit didn't feel like I belonged there. You know, I felt like I belonged in the South, and I'm in South Carolina today, you know, and this is where I feel at home. Because I love the outdoors. I love nature. It's in me. Like when you do your ancestry, it's like an awakening. Like you actually feel like you're waking up. Like everything makes sense. All right. In June of 1863, Montgomery Brigade, including the 2nd South Carolina and 54th Massachusetts Infantry under Colonel Robert Gall Shaw. So if you've seen the movie Glory, that's the white boy that, you know, was in that movie. Participated in operations along the Atlantic coast, resembling his earlier Jayhawking raids in Kansas and Missouri. The 2nd South Carolina was a part of the raid at Combahee Ferry, in which 800 slaves were freed. The regiment later helped loot and burn the coastal town of Darien, Georgia, despite the fact that it was undefended and offered no resistance. But it still had to go, because that's what, you know, fed the soldiers. So in 1863, the 2nd and the rest of Montgomery's brigade moved to Morris Island off the South Carolina coast. They took part in an expedition to James Island from July 7th, 17, and skirmished with Confederates at Grimball's Landing on July 16th. The 2nd participated in the siege operations on Morris Island against Forts Wagner and Gregg from July 18th until September 7th, when the Confederate defenders abandoned the 2 forts and withdrew. The 2nd South Carolina was involved in the subsequent operations against Fort Sumter and the defenses of Charleston until January 29th, 1864. It moved to Hilton Head and then to Jacksonville, Florida on February 5th to February 7th. While in Florida, the regiment was disbanded and subsequently reorganized as the 34th Infantry Regiment, U.S. colored troops on February 8, 1864. Many of the men from the old 2nd South later participated in the Battle of Honey Hill. Okay? So, my third great grandfather was in the 2nd one, and he was also in the 34th Infantry. Okay? And I'm going to show you it right now. Okay? So here it is. First, let me take you guys to my family Let me take you guys to my family tree. Let's go back. Okay. So here's my family tree. And you can see Minglemore, Coramore, right? Minglemore was my mother's father, and Gracie Clark was my mother's mother, okay? My mother's mother, my grandmother, was born from Abe Clark and Maggie Clark, okay? Now, I want to get to how, my third great grandfather. So Maggie Clark was born from Dan Hodges and Clara Verdell, okay? And Clara Verdell mother was Caroline Worthy, and her father was Morris Worthy. And he is my third great grandfather. So here's his pension. All right. So I want to show y'all the records, and I'm going to read it out to you. All right, here it goes. See? It says U.S. Civil War Pension Index, General Index to Pension Files. So he was in the 2nd South Carolina Colored Infantry in the 34th. Remember, it turned into the 34th USC Infantry. Let me click it. Let me give y'all a view of it to show you how it look. So this is it right here. Verdi and Morris Worthy, 2nd South Carolina Colored Infantry, 34th South Carolina Infantry. And date of filing was 1890. August 23rd, 1890. And we're in 2021. And I'm 36 years old. And I'm just finding out that my third great grandfather fought in the Civil War, led by Harriet Tubman. So it's your brother YK, the truth. And I'm out. Peace.